My name is Tamara, and this is my channel, and you are at Writer's Workshop. This is a nonfiction writing book club where each month we pick one book and we chat about it at the end. And we are at the end, and this month's book is Zen and the Art of Writing by Bradbury. Amber is going to be joining us. She's having some internet issues, so she may drop in and out. I'm going to add her right now. Hey, Amber, we're live.
Hey.
So, would y'all like to introduce yourselves? And I'll tweet out this link. Alina, if you could start, please.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Alina. I'm a self-published author. I write mystery, contemporary romance, and sci-fi fantasy. So basically all the genres, because I don't like making things easier on myself.
Who wants that?
That would be crazy.
Also, I'm on YouTube. I have a channel. I assume it's in the description.
It should be.
I'm drinking water, by the way, for anyone wondering. This is my normal state, not alcohol-induced, which maybe I shouldn't tell, because if
I'm drinking water, by the way,
alcohol-induced, I'm thinking people would like give me like the benefit of the doubt. That's it.
And Amber?
Hi guys, I'm Amber Crafts. I write paranormal romance, and my life is crappy and very hectic right now, but I'm here.
And we appreciate you.
We appreciate the effort.
My internet sucks. Sorry, guys.
I adjusted my camera slightly so that I can fit better. You know, this is divided on YouTube.
Well, I'm on my phone now, so my hand might get heavy and you might start seeing me go a little. It's the only stable connection.
At least it's working, so it's great. Like, nothing else matters.
Change the angle if you need to. It's fine. I'm going to say hi to the people who are here with us.
Hi.
Dina, hello. Thank you. Hi, Kara.
There we go.
Hi.
Hey, Deputy. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're here. Hi, Shannon.
What the?
Michael's already watched your Q&A and liked it, so that's awesome.
Yeah, that's super awesome because I just published it. So I'm trying to type a comment and probably stop trying because my keyboard is just not cooperating with me tonight. It's running out of batteries because it's a wireless one, and I replaced them, but the batteries I replaced them with are not that great, so typing is not really working. So
it's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine.
It's always fine.
I'm doing great.
So Ray Bradbury was the author of Fahrenheit 451. That's where I know him from. Yeah. And you know what? I bought this book 5 years ago. Okay. And it took until I read it for me to notice that on the top here, it says essays on creativity. So this wasn't a complete novel. It was a collection of 11 essays, which I'm totally fine with because he was known as being like a great essayist in addition to like writing sci-fi and stuff like that. So I was excited to be able to read the essays, but were you guys surprised? As I was.
No, like, I mean, I got an audiobook for this and I was like, oh, I'll just consider this to be a fun read because, first of all, it is a collection of essays. It's very much a person's process and way of thinking and philosophy on writing and creativity. So I was like, I'm going to have fun with it because it's a very enjoyable listen, and I assume it's an equally enjoyable read. Very, very pleasant. What can I say? I had fun with it. I listened to it in like a few hours all at once almost. And I'm going to try to take some advice of it, but it's like it's the type of advice you have to kind of consider within its context. So when it was published, by whom it was published, and whether anything of what he says still applies. And some things do, but not all.
So just so you guys know, the essays were written from the years of 1961 to 1990. So that's why there's some like dated references and things like that. And as I was reading it, it felt like it was a very like stereotypical masculine point of view. Did you feel that way? I don't know.
No, I felt it was like a very high IQ person's perspective.
Oh yeah, he's a smart guy. That guy, he's pretty smart.
It's like genius level process from what I've gathered. I mean, this guy remembers his circumcision after birth, so
yeah.
I'm used to it, so it's not. I think it sounds masculine, but it's not. It's just very factual and logical, and that's why. But I think it's because of how his brain works, not his gender, if that makes sense.
I thought of it as masculine because of all the references that he made. He would talk about boys do XYZ. He didn't really talk at all about women. And I think that he mentioned a lot of other writers, but he only mentioned one female, Ursula, the sci-fi. I totally blank.
But that's because sci-fi was a pretty masculine genre at the time.
True.
And there are more women in sci-fi now, but not in hard sci-fi at all.
Right.
I mean, there are some, but way fewer. I think it's still a masculine genre. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That said, I write sci-fi sometimes. So, and yeah, I think it depends very much on this book's context and on the fact that these are very personal essays. I think it's him sharing his experiences and trying to help others through them, but it's a very personal process. There's no generalization. It's always what he does and what works for him and what he thinks might work for others. So
thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
He hooked us up with the name. Thank you. Oh my gosh. I cannot remember.
And that was my thing. I didn't think it was really that. Of course, it's masculine because he is a man and it's his personal journey type thing. But I think because, like you said, he remembers so much, he has that type of not just photogenic memory, but all over. Like, there was only one way for him to write it if it was going to be personal. Yeah. You know, and because they're over a lot of years, you also see like his own progression in the writing. I felt like as I read it, his writing style changed a little bit to also personalize with his age.
I feel like his philosophy changed. I think it was like in the first essays, it was a lot more purist. And then as it progressed, he talked about the middle ground between being kind of a market writer, so writing to market, and not, and finding the middle way between those two, like still maintaining your art and still being appealing to the customers, which I found interesting.
I feel like that is something that just happens with age and time and having to use your writing to like provide, you know? Because when I first started writing, and I started writing young as well, I was very much, I'm all about the art. I'm all about writing what I feel. And I didn't think about market. Market wasn't even a thing. But, you know, as you grow older and you want to do it as a real job, then things change a little bit. I even was trying to find my note where he mentioned something pretty specific about writing to market.
Until then, I'm going to reply to Dana. I don't think he was uncomfortable writing women characters. I think this was very much his process, and it was based solely on his experiences and what worked for him and how he went about it. So it was limited to him. That's the only reason why I believe.
But I don't know how many female characters he really delved into, so I don't know. I can't say for sure if he was comfortable with writing women characters. I'm not sure. So he said, we hear it. This is in the actual essay that was titled Zen and the Art of Writing. Each of the essays have a different name, by the way, because they were published in different places before they were put into this collection. We hear a lot about slanting for the commercial market, but not enough about slanting for the literary critique. Both approaches and final analysis are unhappy ways for a writer to live in this world. No one remembers, no one brings up, no one discusses the slanted story, be it Diminuode, Hemingway, or third time around Eleanor Glean. What is the greatest reward a writer can have? Isn't it that day when someone rushes up to you, his face bursting with honesty, his eyes afire with admiration, and cries, that news story of yours was fine, really wonderful. Then and only then is writing worthwhile. And that struck me because on the one hand, it's talking about the purity of writing, and on the other hand, it's talking about that connection that a writer and the reader can forge. And in that, I think, is an aspect of writing to market. But he's much more poetic with it. It sounds much better the way he put it.
Yeah, but he's not exactly writing to market, saying he's writing the book, and then if it happens that the reader has that reaction, that's the best reward. Which is a bit different, but this is from, I think, earlier in the book. I'm not sure. I did not make notes, but I did notice that he was more interested in a middle ground towards the end of the book than he was in the beginning, when his attitude was a lot more purist. And he was kind of bashing people who write to sell books. But just for context, regardless of when the essays are written, some of them are written about very early experiences. And I'm sorry, if in today's world, with just one book published or a few stories in a few magazines, you can go have dinner with an acquisition editor and leave that dinner with 2 contracts, you're the man.
Yeah, things are definitely different then, and the market wasn't as saturated too.
Definitely
Very
not
true.
as saturated, and not as varied as it is today. I guess that would be a fair point to make. And I think there wasn't just as much access to a lot of books that people could buy. I mean, you had whatever was in the bookstores and libraries, and that's it.
Yeah.
So the availability right now of books and voices from like around the world it's leaps and bounds ahead. I mean, I'm pretty sure if he were still writing today, I don't know. If he started today, he'd probably have a slightly different philosophy, but maybe not. And I think it has to do with your own core values and what you find meaning in, and how you define your mission with your work. And that's writing or anything else. So, I don't know. But I think the context he lived in influenced everything a lot.
Yeah.
when he started writing, he started with doing short stories and submitting them to magazines, a lot of pulp magazines. And he was
those
writing,
were paid well. Let's just be honest about that. Those were paid well, and I'm not sure if this made it into my right market and rapid release video. I think it did. I'm just like, I don't remember now because I've spent so much time on that video and I can't remember what I left in. But if you listen to the essays, he got like a short story done in a couple of hours in one afternoon. So boy wrote fast.
Yeah. And I think that he was writing for magazines, so they were smaller. They were smaller short stories.
Yeah, but still getting a short story done in a day, in an afternoon, it still means writing a few thousand words in an afternoon, which apparently it's a lot for a lot of people. And he did publish a lot of short stories, so if you consider that, writing fast, it doesn't seem so impressive anymore. I think it's a point we should make because we have this this skewed perspective on writers that are no longer around, that they took forever to write their books, and in a lot of cases that's not true.
That's not true.
Especially pulp writers. They had to get them done kind of fast.
Yeah, if they wanted to, eat and like have a place to stay, they had to write quickly and they had to try to publish as much as possible.
Plus, I mean, I think we forget these people were career authors, so that's what they did all the time. They didn't have to market on Facebook and get dragged in rabbit holes. So it was their career, and they were driven to achieve a lot, and they did write a lot. And hey, Stephen King writes like what, at least 4 pages per day, every day. So that's a lot of writing. To be fair, I sometimes think at this point nobody dares to cut anything of what he writes.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of a bloated writer, but that's so. Within the essays, there was some pieces of advice here and there, though most of it was him talking about his own experiences. And one thing that he mentioned was he suggested that writers should write 1,000 to 2,000 words a day and try to write 1 short story a week. Because his philosophy was, if you write 52 short stories in a year, that they're not all going to suck. That eventually you'll get better at it, and eventually you're going to write good stories. And
by the way, you do realize he was write every day and write a lot kind of writer, right? So everything that people are trying to tell us, it's wrong now because you're going to burn out.
Well, I feel like just societal differences. There's like a difference in work ethic then compared to now. But
no, I think we've it's not a difference in work ethic, because if you have a corporate job and you work 8 to 10 hours a day every day, you're considered a responsible adult. But God forbid you write like 4 to 5 to 6 hours a day, because then you're insane and you're gonna burn out. So I think he was a short story author mainly. Sure, he wrote some longer form stuff. He did write plays and all of that, but he enjoyed writing short stories. And if you write short stories, you need like a lot of them, because you have to sell them to a lot of magazines, and some might suck or need a lot of editing, and you need to, live and eat somewhere, and that requires money. Which makes sense to me. But hey, if you think about that, so 1,000 words per day means at least like 20,000 words per month. So what, 4 novels a year at least?
Yeah.
Kiara, you
Which is
mentioned
so
10
cool.
pages.
Oh,
What-
10 pages for Stephen King, I assume, which is even more.
and
I
then
don't
she
know why
said
I said
everyone
4.
writes differently. King was happy writing the way he did.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, no, but my point is that when people talk about high volume or fast writers, they no one ever utters the name Stephen King. It's just the self-published folks who don't edit their books. So I think it's a nice point to remember sometimes.
Yeah, or if we look at uh, just to throw that talking about writing a lot and in volume, romance writers have been doing that for decades. They
Yep.
publish 4 to 6, 8 to 10 books a year, and they're full-length books, and they're edited. But I mean,
I'm sorry, I just saw Carol's comment. Oh my god, yeah, true.
oh, sipping tea. So, do you two write short stories or poetry? Because those were the two things that he talked about the most. He did talk about playwriting and noveling, but poetry and short stories was what he came back to.
I mean, I did write short stories, mostly for anthology calls, because short stories were my way of testing publishers back in the day. So I first submit a short story, but I always kept them on the long side. So if it was a 15,000 words upper limit, well, I was heading to 15,000. Like, I think my shortest story was like 7K. I'm not great at writing really concise stuff. So I'm in a group that's called Queer Sci-Fi, and they always have this. I think it's yearly. They have a flash fiction contest, and the owner of the group always invites me to join, and I always politely decline because I can't write flash fiction like that. No, I can't. I tried. And speaking of poetry, I did try, both in my beloved mother tongue and in English. I utterly suck at it. I'm not like, no. What I tried like in high school and stuff was pretentious bullshit. But hey, I wrote a lot of pretentious bullshit at that point. But it was I tried to keep it to like school essays where I got super philosophical and elitist and I'm better than you.
Good morning.
But good morning. But to be fair, I
Amber,
that was high school me.
Do you write short stories or poetry, or have you? You've written poetry, haven't you?
Yeah, I actually fell in love with writing from poetry. But the only short story literally I've ever written is children's books. Like, I wrote 3 in high school for, 1 in middle school and 2 in high school for class. And otherwise, it's all been poetry. Every time I try to start a short story, it always ends up novel length. Like, I can't do it. I don't know. I just can't.
I mean, I can stick to novella though. Sorry.
I have a poetry collection, but I can't find it. So, well, not everyone might know. I'm just saying, like, for everybody.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I just said I know about it. That's all. Like, I was pointing out that I've heard about it. Not that you shouldn't mention it.
See, and I wish I still had all my poems that I wrote during my younger years. I'd probably publish them because I had over 150 or so that I had written for a class thing, and I just kept adding to it. And I had it in the backseat of one of my cars that I totaled, and the pages went flying everywhere. I never found all of them. So I wish I still had them. I'd do something like that. But yeah, you can definitely tell, I think, your progression if you do things like that more often, be it short stories or poems. it definitely does help. I agree with him on that. Like, they're not all gonna suck, but I think it definitely shows, you know, like in the beginning of the book, he starts out, you know, writing is survival and not to write is to die. And then later on, he's like, well, I just sat down and I wrote every day, and then I threw cold water on it and edited it later. And so I think as you progress in the writing, like he says, as he progresses in life, it's not only do your philosophies change, but like what helps you changes. So
yeah, but I think his philosophies added on top of each other. I think if you ask him
they
if
progressed.
he still thinks he'd die without writing, I think it would have still agreed with that.
I didn't mean they changed, but progressed, I guess is the word.
But they progressed nicely, and they kind of got more nuanced as the book progressed, and I really appreciated that.
In the beginning, the first essay is called "The Joy of Writing," and he said, simply, then here is my formula. What do you want more than anything else in the world? What do you love, or what do you hate? And one of the things that he would do is write down a bunch of nouns that had some type of personal, strong feelings related to it. And from that list of nouns, he was able to pick a noun and then write a story from it. And that was that was his method. And I thought that was really interesting.
But that word association trick of his involved like hundreds and hundreds of words and pages of notes. So it was something he did constantly, and I found that interesting. If that's how your mind works, I think if you're more visual than that and you get flashes of images, it might not work just as well for you. But I think it can definitely help.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool exercise to try.
I thought it was really interesting, and it reminded me of Dana and Sarah and CJ and I, we were talking about like the desert. I've never been to the desert, and and Dana was like, she was saying that it smelled like wet desert, and I was like, what does that smell like? So I Googled it because I'm a nerd, and I found this blog post where all these people were describing what the desert smelled like. And what was interesting is that every single one of them, the scent was associated with a memory. And so if they would have made their own separate list and been like desert, what would come from that one word would be so varied and different. And I think that's like a beauty in writing. Like that's how writing becomes art. The way we take a word, just a noun, something as doesn't really tell you anything as desert, and we're able to transform it and change it and make it into something that somehow I feel like I know what the desert smells like, even though I've never freaking been. I've been to like here in West Virginia, which is very mountainous with a lot of trees. So, but now I feel like I've smelled the desert. And I think that Ray Bradbury, he had tapped into how to find these words that would like remind him of something, that would be connected to like strong emotional memories. And then he was able to take those memories and write short stories. And in the beginning here, he talks a lot about your passions and how the passion fuel your writing. And I thought that was interesting. And I wondered do you feel like your passions fuel your writing? Like, do you think that it's something that can work with long form, or is it something that works better with the short form, like a short story or poetry or even novellas?
You're asking me, like, I'm writing an entire series just to make references to all the anime I love. Come on. Like my first chapter in my cozy prequel is these two characters who are in cosplay outfits in an elevator in New York, trying to explain a very complicated anime and visual novel and game universe to like normies, and it goes very interesting. Like, so who are you? I'm Nero. Well, wasn't he a man? Yeah, but he's a woman in the Fate universe. And the other person is like, what? Well, remember Saber, who's actually King Arthur, and the woman? It's the same thing. And at some point, the description is she was looking like she was having a seizure or just a normal reaction to this stuff. So that's how I employ my passions. But I did use very vivid memories in books, and people responded well to those. And I've particularly used them in Lover's Journey, which is a 3-book series. And the way the series is built, like the first 2 books, which are novels, they span over a very long period of time, like 20 years. And they go from childhood to adulthood. So there was a lot that I could explore, and sensations and things we did and feelings we had when they closed the village library and stuff like that. And that's a different kind of passion and a different kind of memory, and that also fuels my writing. But I think what's important from that and the part about the Zen in writing is to find joy in the actual process of writing, because we all feel great at the end of the day when we're done with our words. We're very goal oriented, as in we feel pleasure when we reach goals, but that's not the most productive way. As long as you enjoy the process and you enjoy the simple fact of writing, you'll do it with more passion. It will be more of an intrinsic motivation to keep doing it. And Chris Fox just had a video on this recently, which was fun actually to hear him talk about that. And it's more sustainable. You'll never get tired of it if you enjoy every moment of writing and researching stuff and, making your book better and editing it. So I think for that aspect, this collection of essays is really good. Just to remind you of the joy of doing it, and of the fact that actually maybe you couldn't live without writing in any form.
Mm-hmm.
Amber, how do you feel about putting passion in your writing?
I think for me, places influence my writing more. Like Unknown Love was in Mississippi, and Unknown Family is in North Carolina, like places that as a child really resonated with me. So I think that is always going to be in my writing, the world building more so than the people. But I feel like, he said something he said really got to me. It says, what is the subconscious to everybody else is the creative aspect that becomes for writers the muse. And I like to consider myself a person that sees more than others. Most people never look up, and that type of thing. And so I think the way he's able to just, like you said, write nouns and then that invoke a memory or things like that, maybe that's something that could expand what I'm doing, but to maybe bring that part of the personality of people instead of just one side of the writing. Because like I said, it's only ever been world building. That's the thing that's my passion's always shown through. I could describe a forest or a mountain or a creek or something to you in beauty, but people confuse me enough that I just write them. So I don't know, that's probably the most passion I have in the book so far, but this definitely showed me different ways to expand upon that. and to maybe exercise my own mentalness, to open up my subconscious on that side of it. So
I'm gonna go over here to the comments and
yeah, they went crazy.
I did not turn it into a fate discussion at all.
Because I'd asked everyone if they write short stories, and so Sarah loves writing short stories. Shannon likes to use too many words, so she doesn't delve there. Rita, oh hi Rita, I didn't know you were here. Novellas. Michael has a few short stories published. It's a different process than writing a novel, and he does enjoy writing them. And he likes trying to do flash fiction pieces, which is less than 500 words. And trying to fit a complete story in 500 words or less is a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. I used to, in my pen, paper, pad blog, I would do weekly or bi-weekly flash fiction stories. And it was a great exercise. And I really feel like I need to start doing that again, because it was a great exercise, and it was a opportunity to kind of step back from whatever project I was working on at the time and to be able to do something else. It was kind of like cleansing my palate so I can go back to the other thing, and it would feel new again, Dana's, the smell of desert is a treasure locked in your heart. I love it. Fates/stay night. What? Wait a second.
That's the Fate universe. It all started with a visual novel, and there are 3 different routes, and you go from one to the other. And the first one is Fate Stay Night, then it's Fate Unlimited Blade Works, and the third one is Fate Heaven's Feel, which then got adapted into anime. And Heaven's Feel, that path is now adapted into a series of 3 movies. I've seen part 1. I've seen part 2 this afternoon, and I have feelings about it, and I hate a lot of things, and I need to kill people. So yeah, I'm sorry I got everyone into talking about Fate.
It's all right. I'm gonna avoid them. So Michael said one of his passions is LGBT rights. All of his main characters fall in that sphere. He did it on purpose to increase diversity in the books people can read. That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of a given for my books, but
you know what, Michael? Me too. I wish I could enjoy every moment. Some moments I just slug through because it's necessary evils.
I mean, it's mostly it's hard to start. It's those days when it doesn't flow as well, and it's harder to start. But then when you get into it, it's kind of fulfilling, and it makes you happy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like if you give it enough time, you just get into your flow, and everything's okay. I feel like I'm more meh about it before I start than when I actually do it. And that's a good thing. Maybe I should put a post-it somewhere to remind myself that once I start, I actually enjoy it.
Yeah. What is it with the resistance? We all have that resistance.
I mean, I'm a sloth and a procrastinator, so comes with the territory.
You know what? You're a sloth and a procrastinator. I must be like...
That's what I was just going to say.
You get so much done. How do you... Oh my gosh. What is your yardstick? How do you measure?
I know, right?
But everyone's different. Everyone's process is different.
No, the thing is I had this issue in high school, starting in high school, because in secondary school nobody cared, but in high school everyone assumed that I spent all my time at home studying and doing my homework and stuff like that, and it was a very huge divide between what all these people told me, that I'm a total geek and I do nothing but learn and write and whatever. And on the other hand, I had my mom who was complaining that I'm never doing anything. So it was because I caught on fast. um, it begs to say that there is no AP style of class in Romania. So if you're not an average student and something like advanced placement would actually benefit you, there's no such thing. So I got boarding class a lot, and I did things very fast. And it's the same thing with my writing. Like, I write decently fast. On my worst day, I will write 1,000 words an hour when I'm really distracted and not into it, and mostly distracted because I'm into it, but I'm easily distracted by stuff. And when I'm at my peak with just typing, I type like 2,000 words per hour. So it doesn't take me that long to produce stuff, and I produce relatively clean first drafts. Then again, I spent a long time doing this, and probably that's why. Also, people on the outside see the results. They're not here with me to see all the days where I just fuck around reading books and watching YouTube videos.
Well, you're human. It's nice to hear that.
Well, and everybody needs a break.
Actually, it's more like it's surprising I get as much done, how much time I waste. But lately, it was kind of also because all the surgery and the recovery and the fact that I don't know why, but since the surgery, I've had a worse time dealing with weather in general, and heat in particular. And I was the kind of person who had absolutely no problem with summer heat. So that's part of the reason why I kind of took it pretty slowly. And yeah, I mean, I wrote like 20,000 words, let's say, in August. I edited a lot more than that, like 3 times that. But if you look at when I wrote the 20,000 words, I had like 4 days of 4,000 to 5,000 words per day, and then a couple with a few more, and that's it. That's my month.
See, it took us moving this month for me to get any words done. Literally, I've got the 4 days we were moving where my mom had to drive and I couldn't, that I wrote 3,835 words or whatever. Past that, I haven't written all this month, all last month. And I'm like, this book came at the right time for me because, you know, he had certain things that just spoke to me, and I was able to just write down and keep for later to keep me inspired. And like one of my favorite quotes he said was, "You got to stay drunk on your writing so that reality can't destroy you."
I love that quote.
I love that.
And I didn't know that quote came from an essay.
I've
heard it forever, and I'm like, yes, I love that.
And that was my thing. I'd heard it forever, but I didn't know it came from him. And, you know, and he says, don't see with your eyes, but with your consciousness and things like that. And so I'm like, instead of thinking about everything I'm doing, trying to get moved and get set up and things like that, I was reading this when I wasn't writing and when my computer would die. And so it kind of came at the right time for me because it was like, I'm going on this cross-country journey, places I've never seen before, and I just need to soak it all up. You know, I need to do what he says. Just let my subconscious take it all in, and I'll remember it later. So I think that opened my eyes a little bit to like, okay, well, it doesn't matter if I write, you know, a certain amount every month that I try to do or whatever. I may not hit my 15,000 mark that I try to write every month, but you know what? I'm only 6,000 away from what I wrote last year. And I've got how many more months left? 4 more months. Yeah. So, and that's not even including Nano. So I don't know. It just felt like the book came at the right time to get that Zen part of the Zen in the writing. Like, everybody writes differently, like Carol said earlier. And, you know, I think as he progressed in the essays, like we were talking about earlier, it showed that people progress as they write, and like Alina, you're saying your first drafts are good because you've written and everything. Like mine are somewhere in between. I've written so many stories and threw them away and things. Like I know I've gotten better, but I'm nowhere near first draft okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's not just what I've written, just all the series of edits I've been through so far. Because
Yeah.
that's the upside of having published quite a few titles up until now. I've gone through a lot of editing, and when I was with my publisher, everything went to two editors, and each editor did two passes. So I worked with people with different styles, and I picked stuff from every one of them. Also, I feel like I've matured as a reader too since I started writing, because that also helps. I mean, and it's usually like you discover something new, like a new genre, and then everything in it is appealing, and then you read 10 books and you start to get pickier.
Yeah.
So I did that with a lot of genres, and that also helps. And at this point, I can draft a book, go through my own edits once or twice. Well, it's edits once, and then I do a proofread with read aloud, because I find that helps me the most when I edit, to just hear it. Because if something sounds off, like a dialogue or something, then I edit it, and after that I send it to an editor. But I should say I spend a lot of time with the story in my head, just watching it unfold like a sort of a movie. So
Yeah, that's the way I
it's
am.
pretty clear when I start writing, and I guess that helps a lot with the producing of these clean drafts I've mentioned. So it's not like just I pants my way through it and I get this beautiful first draft, because that's not true.
Right.
But this is why I don't give writing advice, and I mentioned it in the Q&A as well. It's because my process is pretty specific, and a lot of it just happens in my head before I even start writing. So I feel like I do a lot of problem solving and course correction before I start writing.
Well, you have to wonder, because he wrote plays, if he did the same thing. Like
I
if
don't
he was
know
able to
if you
sit
picked
down
up
and
on
write.
that, but he adapted his own things, and
Yeah.
his stories were kind of growing and developing, and he always edited stuff and added things, and the play was not exactly the same as the novel, and he thought of adding new things and making stuff different. And the one thing I thought of was Evangelion, because in Eva you have the first anime where you get a story, and then they made a movie and everybody expected it to be a retelling, and you get a different story altogether, like completely different. It's something else. It's no, not the same thing. Apparently there's the manga they did after that, and again, it's a different story, because I mean, same characters, same premise, just completely evolved and different story. And I was like, oh yeah, I totally feel that push to just improve your work over time. So why not? Like, I found that interesting.
So we are getting to the top of the hour. So
Mhm.
let's give our final thoughts on the book. Would you recommend it? If so, or if not, why? And then we'll kind of close things out here.
I definitely recommend this. It's a great book to read if you want to see how an author's philosophy evolves, if you want to be exposed to a probably very different style and process of writing than your own, because of the time when this was produced, when there wasn't as much TV and TV shows and this more fast-paced type of storytelling. And it's a pleasurable book to go through, because it's almost lyrical at times, and quite erudite, I'd like to say, and it's not the style of writing you see these days in anything on writing. So it is just a pleasure to read this book, and I think the philosophy of it, even if it's not entirely applicable, will definitely be at least inspirational.
Yeah, sorry. I think a couple things that Alina said, and I can agree with. On top of like, even though like we were talking about, he wrote in like a masculine way or whatever. I liked the way, because he is such a great storyteller, that even these short essays were written so well that it almost took you on the journey with him. And so even though they were just essays, they were like a short story in themselves. You could imagine everything. And so for me, it wasn't just one book. It actually was the essays. I would read one and then take a break and things like that, and just think about each essay individually. So whether it's just reading the book through and finding little snippets that help you, or just thinking about one essay at a time, I think either way, it makes it a very enjoyable read. So I couldn't give it higher praise.
It was definitely a great read. I took a bunch of notes, and I wanted to see if there was anything that I had meant to mention and forgot about. He was a poet, and he wrote like that.
Yeah.
The essays are extremely lyrical. They have a beautiful rhythm to it. His word choices are gorgeous. It's beautifully written, and it made me miss poetry. And I felt called out. Where did I mark it? Because there was a place in here where he was asking if you as a writer also read poetry and if you read short stories. And I was like, oh, well, I used to. I don't anymore. Maybe I should fix that so that I can sound more lyrical in my words again. And I wanted to read this one quote because I thought that it was perfect, and it kind of exemplified this author tribe that we've kind of lucked up upon. He said, "Who are your friends? Do they believe in you? Or do they stunt your growth with ridicule and disbelief? If the latter, you haven't got friends. Go find some." And I feel that I'm like, yes, I better read that, because I feel like we as a group have been supportive, and we've helped each other to grow. We've helped each other to reach our goals. And I think that's important. And one of the reasons that I wanted to even do Writers Workshop is so that we could all learn from these books and we could grow. And another way that we can grow, this is a segue, y'all. I created a Goodreads.
Segue.
Get better. I created a Goodreads group for this Writers Workshop, a book club, and the link is in the description. I think it should be at the top link, so that during the month we can talk about it. We can explore what comes up for us in the story, because I know that there's some people who watch these, but they don't necessarily comment because they don't really want to, or they might not be able to make it to the stream. But I want to hear about their experiences and what they've learned, because I think that is part of what makes these books helpful, honestly. And I'm glad that we covered something that talked more about the art rather than the mechanics of marketing and writing, because I think the art is important and sometimes we lose it. So let's do our outros and send everyone along the way. Amber, do you want to start?
Oh,
sure.
We're going the other way around.
Either way, I don't care. Alina's so used to being first. She's like, okay.
This is a rule with what we make up. Sorry. Go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, so like I said before, I write paranormal romance. I can't words at the end of this. And as far as being online and streaming, we'll figure out the streaming later, but I have videos coming up of the trip and things like that. If I can get them edited, it's craziness here. But I will be back on social media soon, starting with this. So my hiatus should be over soon. So just stay looking forward to that. It's coming.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, still an author at the end of the stream, which is always a win. I would like to say that tomorrow morning, actually, I'll have a stream on my channel, which is a read along that we pair with our genre talk streams that I do with Nikki J. Marcus. The book we're reading is Vicious. Well, we have been reading and we're now discussing is Vicious by V. Schwab. So come join us if you'd like.
I love V. Schwab. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. Anyway, no problem. I'm happy about that.
I just love that I'm Pacific now, so I'll get to see it before I go to bed and be there instead of waking up at 1 a.m.
That's awesome. It will be at 8:30 my time, so that's
I'm Pacific now, so
12:30 Central, so 1:30 Eastern and 10:30 Pacific. And for Tamara, it will be 8:30 p.m. I think, because it's 12 hours between us, right?
Perfect. Ooh,
yeah. Yeah.
That's exciting.
So yeah. Also, I just published a Q&A video on my channel that I asked for questions for like weeks ago. I was supposed to do it earlier because I was doing Vida for a bit there.
You
then
did
I quit.
so good, though. You did a good
Yeah,
job.
but
yeah,
you exceeded my expectations.
Hers both did. They went further than I thought.
Yeah, we both went further than I expected, to be honest. But I will be honest. The whole fight with YouTube kind of took it out of me, because that was so ridiculous. And I got a reply from YouTube at some point that they will try to look into it, and they asked for details, and I haven't heard from them since. So they don't really get involved if you're a small channel. So
they don't care.
But I'm back now, so I also have a potentially incendiary video that I released yesterday. I talk a lot about right to market and rapid release.
I think it's
an informative.
Then
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We both said
the topic is the topic is incendiary. Let's say that, because people have very strong feelings about right to market. But yeah, stop by and watch it, and if you can make the stream for the read along, that would be awesome. Also, I got a lot of books out. I've released a lot of books this summer. So go check them out.
Yeah, see, Kara agrees. The video was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So to round this out, my name is Tamara Woods. This is my channel where I talk about books and writing. I'm a cozy mystery author. There should be a link for my books in the description. There's also, again, a link for Writer's Workshop. So if you'd like to join the Goodreads, please do. It is still in a process of becoming a thing. So if you have any suggestions, please give it to me. This is my first Goodreads group, so I'm still learning how to set things up. Like, I thought that I had set up discussion links for each book that we've talked about, but then when I went back to look at it, they were gone. So apparently I did not do that right. So yeah, but that's going to be something that I want to do. Also, once there's enough people in the group, I'd like to kind of put the poll of what book to read for the group so that we can all like decide together what to read.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh yeah. And I have a Patreon. So, you know, if you'd like to help support all these great things that I'm doing. Oh. Yeah. One last thing. I have something to share with you. Carol and I have been working behind the scenes on a thing. and we're going to be doing that thing. It's going to launch.
I just want to say something. When
Mhm.
Carol said in her video that she's doing something with someone else, I was like, oh, it's Tamara. I bet it's Tamara.
How did you know?
I don't know. I just had
We're
a
so
feeling.
sneaky.
I just had a feeling, and I'm so happy I was right.
We're so sneaky. How did you figure it? Ah.
I don't know. It was the first person I thought of. It's Tamara. Yeah, that's it.
All right, let me see if I can share this screen. Yeah.
I wish I had
learning
more
this.
time to do the things.
I love
I'll
doing
get there.
the things. So
I'll get back there.
let's see. Is this going to show? Because it's just looking at like.
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Come on, show the thing.
Be nice and show the things, StreamYard.
Damn you, StreamYard. You're messing up my whole vibe. It's not showing it.
Maybe the YouTube's not playing with the StreamYard.
Ah. All right. Well, we'll have it elsewhere because it's not showing it, so I'm going to stop. But Caro made this really cute logo for us because we're going to be doing a podcast / YouTube channel where we talk about AuthorTube news, industry news and publishing, and etc. Whatever comes up. We'll also be helping with announcing people's book launches and things like that. So be on the lookout. I'm going to create a Google Doc that people can submit their release dates for us, so we'll be able to announce them. And our first video will be September 26th. Yes, because we're going to launch on September 26th. So this is like, I don't know, this is breaking news.
Yeah.
And you
Definitely
guys are the
breaking
first
news.
to know, and I'm so excited and I'm happy, and this is going to be fun. We've been talking about it for months, and we're getting our butts in gear to do it. And I hope that you, once it launches, that you'll subscribe to the channel, this, that, and the other.
I mean, I'll subscribe first because this was such a nice ego boost. You know, I felt just as great to have this confirmed as I feel like when I read the mystery and I figure out who the killer is before the reveal.
I don't know how you figured it out.
I don't know either, but I just had a feeling like it definitely the best.
I'm so excited.
I'm so happy. And then I was going to post a comment and say, you're doing this with Tamara, but then I was like, no, because maybe not everyone guessed.
I love it. So there's a lot of good stuff that's going to be coming out in the future, and I hope you guys will continue to come along with me on these weird journeys because I like doing stuff and I like sharing it with all of you. And ladies, thanks for being here because otherwise I'd be talking to myself and it'd be very awkward.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks to everyone who's in the comments tonight, and thank you if you are watching this later. I appreciate that you're here too, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Do, 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 do.